welcome back to the Exponential Files. I'm Larry Lawfer with your other co host, Jim Lowenstern. Hey, Jim, I did listen to the eerie sounds from the universe, and I think that would be a great opening for
That's
this
our
show.
that's our new theme song.
Our new theme song. So,
Copywritten by God.
God, that's right.
If
Or,
Google has a problem, they'll have to take it up with him
right. So Google
or her.
eerie sounds from the universe. NASA just released it. It's fascinating, but we also have fascinating and wonderful here with us, Janie Coffey from Northeast Florida, actually coming from somewhere in Germany today, visiting family.
I'm
So
terminated.
thanks so much for coming back to the Exponential Files.
Thank you.
It's great to have you here. Earlier today, you and I were talking about people coming over to eXp, and I was mentioning that I was a bit of a curmudgeon about it. And one of the questions I asked you earlier that I thought you had some great answers to, or what are the tipping points when if you're at Keller, if you're at Remax, if you're at Compass, if you're at any other agency, there's going to be a tipping point where you ultimately understand what's going on here at EXP. What were
Yeah.
some of those points that you
Mm.
think?
For me personally, or people in general that I've spoken
Well,
to?
you're up near the top in our company, so yes, in your experience.
So I, like you, was a very very firm no to EXP, very firm, say no to the hand or whatever that phrase is for 10 plus years. To be honest with you, it just, I think for me, part of it was I just really didn't know. So the tipping point, it kind of started like dominoes. And I think that my own experience is one of the experiences that most people I talk to who are either considering making a change in their brokerage or have made a change to EXP, it's very similar. There's normally people will put up with a lot, especially real estate agents will put up with a lot because it's very hard to change brokerages, especially if you're a high producer, you've got a lot of listings, you've got a lot of team members, you have a lot of history with your current brokerage. Just it's a lot and it
You have a
takes
lot of signs, you have a lot of everything.
all that stuff and it takes time to slow down. So people, it's kind of like a lobster will boil in a pot, especially busy agents will boil in a pot for a very, very long time before then they just hit something and then that's it. Enough's enough. And that's different for a lot of people. For me, I got fed up with my previous brokerage. And a lot of people have become fed up with that same brokerage. Two, I looked at what I was paying, and even though I was on the highest split structure of that brokerage, when you're a top producer, if there's not a cap at the end of the year, and especially if there's a lot of fees and things, at the end of the year, you look at what you're paying your brokerage and you're weighing it out versus what you get. And between those two things, me just like getting fed up with the brokerage and looking at the finances, that was my tipping point. And then somebody I truly, 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 with my entire career trusted, um, said, you just need to look at this business model so that you really understand it. Because, like I said, I had been exposed to EXP for 10 plus years. In fact, Glenn Sanford had approached me when I had a small brokerage in Miami back in 2009, 2010 about becoming the Florida state broker. And I did look into it a little bit, but then I was like, no, that's just a very weird concept and nobody's going to adapt. It's like me, right? They had like 40 agents back then. Um, but I just hit a tipping point where I was finally like all the things aligned. I was fed up. I wanted a better financial model, and somebody I truly respected incredibly in the business said, just take a good, solid look. Doesn't mean you need to decide it's right for you, but take a good, solid look. And once I did, like, it was a big revelation to me. And I think that's what it is with a lot of people I talk to. Um, they have to get, especially top producers. Newer agents will normally change brokerages a little easier. They don't have so much unraveling to do. But established agents, team leaders, even indie brokers, it takes a long time for them to basically feel like, okay, I have to make a change. And again, it's normally either they're frustrated with their broker for some reason or another. For me, it was, and most people I talked to, I'd say at least almost 50%, they've become frustrated with something at their brokerage. Either the broker didn't support them, or they can't grow the way they want, or they have a lot of restrictions or like a lot of dictations and rules, and they're just fed up. Or they're finally looking at the financial model of where they are compared to what they're getting. And nothing's wrong with a different split structure if you're getting in exchange a positive win. That's okay. But most people these days, if they're in the old traditional model, when they look at what they're paying out at the end of the year versus what they're getting, they're realizing it's not making a lot of sense. So that's the second reason. And then sometimes people are also just, especially if you've been in real estate a long time, you're looking for what's next? What's my next step? I don't want to be selling houses or condos or whatever it is that you sell exactly the same in 5 years as I did 5 years ago as I do now. They're looking for what's next. So I think those are kind of the three tipping points: finances, truly career growth, not just selling more, but like leveling up incredibly career growth. And again, sometimes frustration with the past broker or broker structure. And I think those are probably the three out of 4 or 5 main reasons why people.
Before you take that over, Jim, I just want to say I had all three of them. And my final tipping point was I didn't want a career up. I wanted to career up and be out. So
Yes.
for me, it was a clear path. Go ahead, Jim. I knew you had something to say there.
Well, I want to address what you just said, Larry, before I ask Janie a question. So, your view is you're going to do this for a few years, 4 years, whatever it is, five
Yep.
years, and
Yep.
then you're going to retire.
Yep.
And I propose this, that you figure out what it's going to take to leverage the EXP model so that you can retire, but make it so enjoyable that you would never want to stop working.
That's
You
a
know,
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
yes, you're in retirement,
Yep.
but you know, whatever it is, maybe it's the revenue share, maybe it's
Yes.
leveraging your network and doing referrals or whatever it is, you actually enjoy it.
Exactly.
So,
And I do enjoy it. You can't be in this business and not enjoy some aspects of it. If you don't like it, you don't like the people, you don't like the
it's tough.
negativity, you don't like all the stuff that goes with it, then you're not going to be in this business for a while.
Yeah, and you have to develop that thick thick hide, and it takes some time to do that for some people. So Janie, 40 people. I was on. Maybe we're on the same call. Who knows? But I remember it being 300 people, and Glenn was leading the call, and his big thing was this new technology, which was EXP World, the VR, the virtual reality business environment. And I don't even think that Glenn envisioned what this would blow up to.
no.
You
I
know,
don't.
it would be impossible to be so smart that you can imagine the future. And I'm sure it had a lot to do with the talent that came in beyond that initial 40 or the initial 300 that made this blow up and probably but so the question is this: if you could go back in time not knowing what was going to happen, why would you have done it back then versus why did you do it when you did it? What happened in the interim to bring you to EXP as opposed to doing it the first time it was
Yeah, so
communicated?
a lot happened in the interim. At that time, I owned a small brokerage in Miami, like a boutique brokerage, um, bricks and mortar, just like everybody else. And EXP World, to me, in 2009, 2010, felt so weird. I was like, this is just like my daughter's Sims game. Like, this is Sims. And nobody's going to do this. They want to go to offices. They want to, they find this hope. Like, it's just not going to work. It's not going to work. Like, I was dead set.
Creepy.
Creepy. Now, fast forward 12 years, And Facebook, which didn't even exist back then, or which had just started, has completely changed their name to Meta because they're going into this whole metaverse reality for corporations, not just for Facebook users, but for corporations. And I think COVID had a lot to do with
Exactly.
how quickly the whole
Yeah.
metaverse it kind of
Well,
acceptability.
the work at home environment. I mean, it was slowly changing. I started in the business 40 years ago. It was MLS books,
Right.
and they were very expensive, and you had to go to the office to see this book, which of course had only sold properties in it anyway. So what did you do? The first generation of MLS, again, no one had computers at home, so people went to the office. The physical office meant something, and the camaraderie.
Right.
You have
Absolutely.
people making calls right there, and there were no cell phones, and we had maybe digital pagers, and you'd have to run to a payphone, and it was a different world. We can't even
Very
imagine how horrible our lives were back then, but we can imagine it now. It's like I had to pull off the highway because I had an
paper
appointment call.
maps. Paper maps. Do you remember like just trying to drive with people in your car and you'd have to find it on this giant paper map or you'd
Oh,
print
maps,
out
yes, maps. Yeah,
MapQuest, like 20
I
pages.
remember maps.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Listen, we have millennials who actually watch this show, so let's get out of the, Gunsmoke era. You know,
Well, no, I want to know. So, your journey between the 40 agents and we have 84,000 now. What was your tipping point?
So my tipping point was in a minute, I went from, like I said, owning my own brokerage back then, just coming out of the recession, very sound coming out of the recession, but I was just fed up with being an owner broker. I was fed up with babysitting the agents. I was fed up with compliance. I was fed up with all the paperwork that's not money producing. And coincidentally, at that same time, Sotheby's opened an office in Miami. And I just fell in love with that brand. Ended up closing my brokerage, had a partner. We both ended up going to Sotheby's. I fell in love with that brand, tripled my production in 1 year, for a lot of reasons. We were coming out of the recession. I didn't have to do all this stuff an owner broker has to do, which is not really money making activities. I was able to focus on sales rather than that. And just a lot of reasons. So, triple my production, did so well that they ended up hiring me into management. And I eventually became the executive vice president of a very, very large Sotheby's franchise. So, I was out of production for 4 years. And during that time, I was managing the very big growth of the Sotheby's franchise, which really gave me about 20 years of real estate experience crammed into 4 years because all I did was put out fires of all these very, very high performing agents in South Florida. Decided to move up to Northeast Florida, so about 6 hours north, stayed within the Sotheby's brand, but a different franchise, as an agent, but also director of sales. And again, did really well with sales. I became in the top 9 2 years after moving out of my MLS. Basically, employing everything I learned, managing a lot of heavy hitters in South Florida. And moved to Compass. As a founding agent, my team and I were the only agents of Compass in Northeast Florida for over 3 years. And just got to the point where we wanted more freedom. We realized that we were creating our own business, and to continue to pay as much as we were at that brand, even though we were at the highest split possible, it just wasn't making financial sense. We wanted more flexibility. We didn't want to be dictated to as much as we were. We didn't want to be constrained as much as we were. And then somebody, Lars Hedenberg, who was my real estate coach, and Stacy Peterson, who both were my real estate coach for over 2 years at that time, said they decided themselves to move over to eXp, and I trusted with my entire life or my entire real estate career. And for them to make the change from where they were to eXp, I was like, these are the smartest people I know. And if this is what they're doing, and they were already had made such a big change in my team and how we were operating, that I finally sat down and did look at the model. And it was like this, like, it was like, oh, kind of like
And
Oh
and and
my
and
gosh.
and what did you miss the first time that when you looked at it the
I
second
think I
time?
just had such a closed
Okay,
thing about it that I just didn't really, I didn't look at it at the first, and I did have three separate calls with Glenn. And to be fair, when I was looking at it with Glenn, A, they were very new and very small. And B, it wasn't what it is now at all. I mean, when I came over, when I made the decision to come over, we're at 84, 85,000 now. We were at 36,000 just a year and a half ago, not quite 2 years ago.
amazing.
But right, more than double in less than 2 years. It's crazy. But when they had 40, like I said, all I really had to look at was the Sims world. I was like, ugh, no. Um, so what I did see now, fast forward 12 years, I'm definitely at a point where I don't want to retire either, Larry. Like, retire is not my thing, but I don't want to be trading my time for money. And I don't want to be on that hamster wheel of continually finishing an awesome deal, but already have to be on the hunt for the next good deal, the next good client. And just that hamster wheel that real estate agents we are on, because there is no other way unless you're putting your money away very wisely your entire career. Real estate agent, well, real estate industry is not set up for an elegant exit of production for agents. You can become a team leader and hope that your team members replicate what you do and let you, or you can put your money in stocks or investments or rentals. But as we know, 75% of agents don't do that. We're not great with paying our taxes on time, and we're not great with saving money and investing. So there's no good thing. And then the kind of obvious future for most real estate agents ends up being, we see those agents still out there selling at, 70, 75. I've even seen them older. And that just gave me hives, even thinking about, because I was grinding for so hard for so many years. And I wanted to find an elegant exit that stayed in real estate, that stayed using all my years of knowledge and my skill set and my expertise and my contacts, but I didn't know what that was going to look like. What I had done, and I don't know if I've told you this, Jim, before, is I went out and bought 13, well, 12 rentals. And I was calculating, like, if you at all are in the real estate world and kind of calculations for rentals, if you're getting about 200, maybe 300 per door positive cash flow after all your expenses, that's pretty good, especially when you first bought. So my goal was, okay, well, if I can invest in enough rentals and maybe run a few as Airbnbs, but I need them to be able to revert to long-term rentals if the Airbnb market, for whatever reason, changes. Um, Maybe I could squeak out $5,000 or $6,000 of passive positive cash flow a month. And could I live on that? Yeah. And that was my plan. Like, that was my plan. That was what I was putting everything into. And then I thought, well, over time, that won't be 300, it'll be 400, it'll be 500, maybe I'll get to 10,000. Like, that was my goal. I just want to get to 10,000 passive income that I don't have to kill myself for, that's gaining in appreciation. And by the way, that is not an easy plan. It's a hard plan.
Oh yeah, being a landlord is not easy.
It's a hard plan. But that was what, that was what I thought. I used my real estate knowledge, my contacts, like that was how I could do it. And then when Lars and Stacy presented eXp to me, it was like, whew. So I am in the process right now of liquidating all but two of those properties. I'm keeping the best ones. They've just, I realized that is not the way. I'll put that money into something else, maybe a small commercial building or something like that, but not these things. It's just not the way. For me, rev share is mind blowing, like just mind blowing what it can do for an agent, what it can do with the idea of compounding interest over time. It's not that you have to go out and completely change your life, but 1 out of 4 agents at any given time is looking to change brokerages because they're not happy about something. Sometimes they're not happy about the finances, they're not happy with their broker, they are changing locations, they're changing property types, maybe they're now doing luxury. So 1 out of 4 people you talk to as a real estate agent at any given time is thinking about a change. So all it is being a little mindful to listen about who might be looking about a change and just tell them you might want to look into this model. It's not having to go out and be some hardcore recruiter. It's just being conscious.
And everybody, well, I shouldn't say everywhere because I speak to a lot of people. Some people have no idea what EXP is at all, and then there's the other people that have a set idea. Like I had a set idea from 10, 11 years ago. That was the idea that I had.
Right,
And it's very hard to change people's ideas. But the thing that changes their ideas more than anything, I think, is when they're friends,
right.
their respected peers do it. And it's like, are you kidding me? You
Yeah.
went to EXP? I can't believe it. Why? And it's like, there's like 10 reasons. You have an hour? I'll talk to you about all the reasons right now. Someone just called me up. He said, is the owner still in the business? Someone that was there in the 1980s? I said, you happen to be speaking to the owner. He said, do you remember me? And I vaguely remember this person from 35 years ago, whatever. And at the end of the call, because I had to jump on the podcast, I said, do you know anything about EXP? Just had to get it out there. He said, yeah, someone mentioned it to me last week, or someone was interested in it, and I didn't know what to tell them. I said, I'll call you after the show. So it's
And
getting to
for
that
me,
point.
you're exactly right. For me, so Michael Valdez, who is our chief growth officer of the entire company at EXP, he and I were agents at that very, very, very teeny tiny Sotheby's when it got started. And so I've known him for a very long time. The smartest, hardest working, most elegant man, most cultured. And he went from being an agent to being on staff with a Sotheby's corporate, helping Sotheby's corporate grow internationally. Then he went to Realogy and was helping Realogy grow internationally. That was my watershed moment when I saw him, I think it was about 2 years ago now, go to EXP. I was like, what? Like, you've got to be kidding me. What? And then he would, I could see a marked difference in him, his happiness level. Like you could just see it. He was
That's
happy. And
that's the
it's
big
so
thing.
funny. Brent Gobe always says making real estate fun again. And anybody like you, Larry, like you, Jim, like me, who've been in the real estate business a long time, we get worn down. It's easy not to be happy with this business anymore. It's easy to cringe when the phone rings, or even you're getting a new listing and it's like, oh, because we're just worn out. We're raw. We're worn out. The fun that we had for the first 10, 15, in your case, Jim, maybe 25, 30 years, a lot
40.
of it's worn off. But that's the one thing, like you were saying, Larry, it's not necessarily about retiring and just sitting on a lake somewhere, but it's no longer having to
Exactly.
worry
Hustle.
about that next deal,
Right.
that
Well,
hamster.
Larry has his face on a best-selling book now. So
Oh, awesome.
He's promoting his own book.
Awesome.
and Janie, I really want to thank you also
You
for
saw
help
who the writer is there, right?
launching the Castles brand on the workplace app and all that stuff.
No, it's
You
so
know,
great what you're doing.
maybe we can leverage my trademark into something to compete against Sotheby's worldwide.
That'd be
That would be
nice.
cool.
That'd be nice.
Absolutely. I was on that EXP cruise from
Tell us about
Budapest
it.
to Germany. All we did was it was awesome. All we did was pass castle after castle after castle, and I was like, "This is so perfect." And I'm going tomorrow. I'm going to Canary Islands to visit some EXP agents in the Canary Islands. I don't know if they have castles over there,
We had
but as
Lars
far
on the show
Yeah,
already.
we had
oh,
one
that's
of the
right.
yeah. And
Yeah, I'm
that
going
would
to.
you guys are all talking about the past. I want to talk about the future and what's going on right now. The
Yeah.
two things. One of them is I ultimately did have that moment where I realized it, but this weekend I had a moment with my wife. We were off for a couple of days, and she said, "Really, what's your plan, Larry? What are you doing?" And I was able to help her understand that I don't have one form of income that I'm getting anymore. I sell and I buy, I help people. I have four other separate ones right
Yep.
now. And that is what will allow me to retire. And I don't mean retire away. I'm going to stop working. I like what I do, but I'm going to stop working with people I don't like. I'm going to do the referrals that I love. I have my own investments, that kind of stuff. Um,
So
but
what are the four? What are the four? One, yeah, four income
the other
streams.
four,
Yeah. Well,
I
yeah.
am purchasing the stock. You know, with every closing, I can take 5% of whatever my commission is and get a 10% reduction on whatever the cost of the stock is right there. I believe in this company. And that to me is kind of a passive way to begin to grow income. I used to do that when I was at Keller Williams, but it went into the Keller Williams care system, and I never saw that. I mean, they were always helping people elsewhere, and I am happy to give. I believe in that. We should be giving back. Okay, so that's the one. The other is having people in my downline. We are in the three of us are in the our upline are the top of the top
Rock stars.
people, the top producers. So we have access to those people, and that in itself can help you create income. But the whole recruiting part. There are people who are no longer in the business of selling real estate. They're in the business of on. They don't call it recruiting, do they? They call it onboarding. It's the same thing. It's helping someone aware of how to grow their own business. I have my own investments, and the fourth one is I have given my time to my town. I live in a town, Milton, Massachusetts. That's where the original Articles of Confederation were written before they went to Philadelphia and became the Articles of Confederation. Cool, really old town. I am the chairman of the local historic district study committee. So I am immersing myself in the vast history, and I am just going to position myself as that. I don't sell a lot in my
You
hometown.
you left
So,
you left you left kind of two things out. One is first sale every year when you cap, when you icon, because I know you're going to icon every year. You get stock every time you sponsor someone. They have their first sale. You get stock. So that's income that
yeah,
adds up over time.
yeah.
Plus the stock itself pays a dividend, not huge, but that's money too. So there's things that we forget about, and then one day you look at your you know Morgan Stanley dashboard and go, or TD Ameritrade or whatever. It's like, whoa, look at that.
Yeah. But I was all in when after me talking to this about my wife with my wife for that period. She says, "Let's stop. I'm going to buy us a drink and buy us a nice dinner." I thought,
Oh,
hell yeah. Finally, she's been living with somebody who's been self-employed his whole life, and the only thing we know is my boss is a jerk. And so it's been that income that exists
right.
in the self-employed life, and this allows me to level that out and level it up, and I couldn't be happier because of it. Um, but the other thing I wanted to mention is the connection with other people. And
Yeah.
oh darn, we're already through all this time. But Jim and I were talking, and I he said send an email to someone or go through Workplace, and you know what? Right through our workplace, you can call somebody, and that's 24/7 at any point. It's not like they're going to pick up the phone if
I
it's
love that.
yeah,
I mean, I'm using the world. You know, there are meetings I have to attend, and I go, there. Or if there's a question, there's always someone there to get you the answer within a few minutes. It's awesome. But workplace, it's instantaneous, and you've got 84,000 agents on this thing basically,
right now.
and it's you think okay, it's a cloud company. Well, the cloud is just a technology. The company is
Right.
people,
Well,
and
just like I was gonna say, just like me going to Canary Islands, I'm going to see Lars, but the head of eXp Spain put it on Workplace that I was going to be in the Canary Islands. Two other existing eXp agents who live in the Canary Islands, not even the same island, have
Right.
reached out and said, I want to come meet you. I want to see you. I want to connect with you. Like, it's a whole different environment. I
It's a
know,
bigger,
It is.
it's much bigger than a single, like your boutique
right,
office or
Yeah.
my offices or
Yeah.
right.
whatever. It's much bigger.
It's nothing like any other agency out there model. And us saying that this was one of the push offs from me was it sounded too good to be true. Well, you know what? It is too good to be true, and you should pay attention.
And it isn't even what you think it is when you get involved. It's not until you actually
Yeah.
are using the systems and the network
Right.
that you really see the value.
And
There's
that's our
always
biggest
someone there to
challenge.
answer the question.
That's our biggest challenge, is to make sure that anybody in our world does plug in and use everything available to them, because once they do, they would never want to look at something else because they see. But sometimes you need to help people do that. And that is
Oh
the
yeah,
thing, because there's so much available, it's crazy.
yeah.
It is. This has been absolutely wonderful, Janie. Thank you for joining us from Germany. Have a nice evening.
Thank you.
Great to see you again, Jim. We'll talk soon.
Thank you guys. Wait, I'm gonna take a picture.
Here we are, Janie.
Hey, thank you.
There
Thank
you
you,
go.
Janie.
You've been listening to the Exponential Finals. Tune in next week when we'll have another, maybe not as good as Janie, but interesting guest. Thanks for tuning in this time.
Thanks for having me.
Recording stopped.